Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Welcome to the GSMC Basketball Podcast with your favorite host, Ryan Holloway, presented on and by the GSMC Podcast Network to fulfill all of your podcasting needs. Listen, I've been gone like a day, like one day, and it seems like everything hit the fan. Like all shells broke loose. It's been a lot going on. It's been a lot going on. It looks like Kevin Love got hurt. James Harden has the first 60-point triple-double in the NBA history. He broke a Rockets record for scoring points, which is interesting because I didn't know that he broke the Rockets record for scoring points because I thought T-Mac got 60 a while ago. I just thought, but let me not even get into that. That's not even the biggest thing. Did you guys know that Blake Griffin got traded? So Blake Griffin got traded. LeBron gave a take on it that I thought was actually interesting. It's pretty solid. And, I'm going to get into all of that. However, first, I got to let you guys know something right now. I don't know if where you're at, it's foggy, or if you've experienced fog, or maybe I'm being a baby, but the fog, I don't know why there's not more weather alerts or weather warnings or flash fog warnings. Like if it rains really hard, you get the flash flood warning, you get tornado warnings, hurricane warnings, earthquake warnings. The other day, Hawaii had a false missile warning just the other day for no reason. But I don't feel like there's enough fog warnings. I don't feel like there's enough fog. I feel like the people who randomly text my phone when a kid is missing and they say, "Hey, look out for this navy blue Bronco. Here's a license plate number." The Bronco was last seen in Arizona somewhere. Now that's helpful, and I appreciate people utilizing technology to its best abilities. I appreciate that. That's fine. We should do that. We should also let people know when it's really foggy outside, because I have to make a confession. This is actually why I'm a very punctual individual. I'm not punctual because, well, here's the thing. How do I say this correctly? I'm punctual because I don't like wasting people's time, but I'm also punctual because sometimes I don't know where I'm going. Like, I genuinely don't, even though I've been to this studio more than 50 times. But somehow, some way I got lost in the fog today. I got lost in the fog. Was it because I was probably daydreaming a little bit? Probably. Could it have been because I may have been singing a song really loud? Who knows? Is it because I was watching a YouTube video? I would never do that in my car. Who would watch a YouTube video or Netflix or any type of visual entertainment in their car? Shame. No one should ever do that. Never. I wouldn't do that. So I got a little lost, and it was because of the fog. It was because of the fog, and things started looking exactly the same way. Are you ever driving and then say you're just not necessarily paying attention? Not that you're not paying attention, but your paying attention level is at an 8 when it should usually be at a 10. That's how I am when I take the same route to wherever I'm going. But I looked up and I glanced, and this car was stopped, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I didn't see the car stop because of the fog. From then on, I wasn't alert. Attention span was probably at a 9 out of 10. Then I realized, hey, I've been driving down this street for too long. I've been driving down Larryville for too long. And I saw a school that I don't usually see. I was like, wait. We got to regroup. And I regrouped, and then I got to the studio. I was still on time but still, like, the fog is dangerous, and there should be an alert. I'm not saying there should be a warning. I'm not saying schools need to be shut down. I'm not saying anything like that at all. Nothing. I just believe that there should just be some type of heads up. That's all. Like, hey guys, watch out for the fog today. It could be a little gross. Just, hey, just watch out for it. No big deal. Just, don't be a jerk while you're driving. That's all. That's it. That's all I think. That's all I really think that people need to know. I think it's fine. Anyway, are you guys ready for this? All right, cool. So, man, Blake Griffin got traded to the Pistons. And it's interesting because, like, a lot of people feel like, I'm not going to say a lot of people. I've heard, I will say that. I heard a lot of people say that they're surprised by this. I heard a lot of them say they're surprised by this, and I'm not. I know that DeAndre Jordan has been talked about, like, on the trading block. I mean, I get that. I completely understand that. Like, that's fine. But it seems like people are, like, shocked and appalled. And, the interesting thing that I found about this is that, so Chris Paul was offered $200 million, right? And there's a really big deal made. There's been a really big deal made about Chris Paul walking away from that $200 million and going ahead and taking like a 1-year contract in Houston. Which isn't, I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but that's not a big deal because he's going to get offered that same amount of money once the summer's over. Like, so it's not like he walked away from 200 million and now he's handing out peanut butter and banana sandwiches under the freeway. Like, that's not what he did. Like, that's not what happened. He's waiting a year. Like a lot of people, like LeBron does, like LeBron's doing right now, for example. And basically, So Chris Paul left. They couldn't get him to stay. He's like, I don't want anything to do with this organization. He bounced, right? And so it's like they told Blake Griffin, like, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and give you $175 million because you're going to be the future of our franchise. Which, me personally, as soon as they offered him that much money, I was kind of thinking, you know what? I don't know if that's the best bet. Like, it's not, how do I say? It's not, I don't like saying people are injury prone just because it sounds really negative. I'm just gonna say he's had some injuries just because, like, I mean, the way he plays, it's really explosive and impactful. So he's had some injuries. I'm not gonna say he's injury prone. I mean, he's played 66% of the games over the past 4 seasons, but I'm not gonna say he's injury prone because I feel like it's rude. But he's not someone that you just give $171 million to. And it's interesting because what happened was prior to them giving him this much money, Jerry West wasn't, he was only consulting. He wasn't quite in charge yet. He was only like in a consulting role. And that whole Blake Griffin parade of them saying, hey, you're going to be with the Clippers forever. Here's your 5-year deal. That seemed like it was something that was done by Doc Rivers and Steve Ballmer. And I can't prove that. But I can't prove that, like, necessarily, but it seems like that wasn't something that Jerry West felt like he would have done. And even if Jerry West did do it, then Blake Griffin got injured, and it's like, oh man, like, again, but he's back now. So, I mean, if you're blowing up the franchise, I kind of feel like you have to get rid of him as well. Another reason before he even got hurt. Right? Like, before he even got hurt, I was, in my mind, I'm kind of like, okay, you guys offer CP3 $200 million. He said no. Now it's, hey, Blake Griffin, doing $171 million. Now, that's not even a good, what's the word? I don't even know if that's like a good look, honestly. So I'm not even going to say, even though he signed for the $171 million, I'm not going to say he was going to stay there because we gave you 171 because we lost this guy that wouldn't take 200. That already seems like a weird dynamic to be around. Seems like a weird dynamic. And I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and get to it. I'm pretty sure you guys probably want to know whether or not I feel like it was a good trade. Basically, they traded Blake Griffin to the Pistons. and with a couple other guys. And in return, the Clippers got Avery Bradley, Tobias Harris, and basically got a first round and a second rounder. So I'm going to say, as far as the Pistons go, I feel like both teams won in this trade. And the problem with trades is that it's not a zero-sum game. I think more often than not, people get caught in this thing like, oh, well, who won the trade? Who lost the trade? Who won the trade? Who lost the trade? Trades don't really work that way. Like, usually when you make a trade, someone's getting an advantage now and someone's going to have an advantage later. It's not usually zero sum like that. The only thing that is zero sum, like, seriously, is I'm going to say is the Celtics trade, just because because the Cavs had to get rid of Kyrie because he didn't want to be there. Now, if that pick works itself out, then I think they have like a second rounder from the Nets. It's the Nets pick that the Celtics traded to the Cavs. If that second round pick works out, then I guess so. But realistically, I'm going to say that trade to zero-sum game because the Cavs don't have a future, right? Well, like, whatever LeBron does this season, if he comes back next season, that's the future. But other than that, as far as drafting goes and things like that, it's a wrap for them. Like, once LeBron leaves, it's a wrap. So that's a zero-sum trade. You gave up an injured Isaiah Thomas and some other players you didn't want for Kyrie Irving, like one of our most prolific scorers available right now. Like, I mean, that's a zero-sum trade. But some trades are long-term. Like when the Timberwolves traded Kevin Love for Wiggins, and Wiggins was still a young guy, and now Wiggins is dropping 30, and Kevin Love's hand is broken, but the Cavs were on like a win now type of thing. That trade is a long-term trade because the Cavs did get what they want. They got Kevin Love, they won a championship, and the Minnesota Timberwolves have developed Wiggins into a player that's probably going to be really great. And the only reason Wiggins doesn't get more pub, I believe, is because he plays in Minnesota. But either way, that's how trades work. Like, you make a trade now for one person's getting a now and one person's getting an investment. I'm going to tell you what the Pistons are getting now as soon as I get back from this break.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast with your favorite host, Ryan Holloway, presented on and by the GSMC Podcast Network to fulfill all of your podcasting needs. In case you're just now joining us, I was just recapping the trade that the Pistons made to the Clippers for Blake Griffin. Now, where I left off, I was telling you guys about how the trades aren't always zero sum. It's not like, okay, you guys won the trade, period. It's usually somebody trading for long term and then someone's trading for right now. And it seems like what the Clippers are doing, the Clippers were trading for right now because they wanted to get rid of that contract. I mean, they owe him $171 million to make $35 million over the next several years. They just didn't want to pay it. When you look at what they got, I mean, they have an option of signing Avery Bradley this summer. They have an option of signing Tobias Harris the summer after this one, and then they got a draft pick. So it's kind of like what they give him up for. They basically give him up just to clear the contract. And when I tell people that, people feel like the Clippers automatically won the trade. Now, I'm not gonna say they won the trade because again, we all have different goals and situations, right? So I feel like the Pistons have a brand new arena. They don't have any star power there. Like no one's going to see anyone in particular play there. I mean, I don't necessarily know if that's because they're not good or if it's just because it's really cold there or if it's because they're just not the illest team in the world right now. I don't think they're doing bad. I mean, they're not doing bad for Eastern Conference standards. Like they're in 9th place. Like they're 23-26 right now. And that's a game behind the Sixers. So they haven't won a playoff game since 2010. So if they can make the playoffs and win a game, then that'd be great, right? Like that's all they really want. I mean, and the expectations are pretty low at this point. I feel like Stan Van Gundy is just trying to make them relevant at this point. I mean, they're good. I feel like, how do I say this? I've watched them play, and I feel like they're a good team. They're just not. I hate to say this about the East, but they're just not very good. The East is really good right now, and what I mean by that is if you look at the teams that are lined up, I mean, you got the Celtics, the Raptors, the Cavs, the Heat, the Wizards, the Bucks, the Pacers, the Sixers, and you got the Pistons. And the Pistons are still doing better than the Knicks. The thing is this, though, side note, I was going to go into this a little bit later about how our playoff situation might have changed for a lot of people just because, I mean, I don't know if the Cavs are going to fall out of the playoffs. They probably won't. But with Kevin Love being out right now with the broken hand for 6 to 10 weeks, which is, I don't know, how long is that? He'll be back for playoffs? Is that what that means? 6 to 10 weeks? Is 10 weeks 2 months? How long is that? I don't know. Yeah, that's a long time. He's not going to be back till what? After Easter? Super long time. So I'm not going to say they're going to fall out, but things aren't looking good. Then John Wall just got hurt, right? So I feel like the Pistons can sneak in. And if they sneak in the playoffs and they get a game won, then that's a win. That's all they're really that interested in. The only problem is I don't know what they plan to do about this contract. Now, if they have the type of owner, I don't know who the Pistons owner is, but they have the type of owner that isn't that concerned about it, then so be it. Like, I mean, a lot of these guys, they'll just pay the luxury tax. It's okay. I believe the Warriors are paying one right now. Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Clippers, if they were good, he wasn't going to mind paying CP3 that $200 million and possibly paying Blake Griffin $100. Like, who knows? I don't, if the team's good, if it just depends on the owner. I feel like Dan Gilbert was paying luxury tax, or still is right now. They have the most expensive team and the oldest team. So I'm not really that caught up in the cap. My thing is that with him taking on this contract, it's similar to what Atlanta sent over to the Nets. I don't know if you guys remember, but the year when LeBron went to the Heat, Joe Johnson signed the highest contract in NBA history with the Atlanta Hawks. It was for, I believe it might have been the first $100 million contract in the NBA. I think it was about 129. And he left the Suns and the Hawks signed him for that much bread. And it was a lot of money. And they owed him a bunch of money. So at one point, Joe Johnson was the highest paid player in the NBA. It was crazy. And what ended up happening was for Atlanta to get rid of that contract, they just sent it over to the Nets for some random guys because they're like, hey, let's just cut our losses. Like, we paid this much money in haste. Let's just get rid of the debt, right? And if it's interesting because if you look at that from like a what's the word? If you look at that from like a consumer point of view, like assets and so on, it's actually something that people should do more often, right? Because it's kind of like the contract's new for Blake Griffin, right? Like, they just signed it, right? And it's like, all right, we're not going to get what we want from this, so we have to get rid of it. But people don't do that in real life, though. But we should when it comes to like cars and things like that, right? Like, you buy a car and it's like, yo, you know what? This car costs too much. I need to get rid of this car. Like, this car costs $50,000. I paid 10 into it, but I don't want to pay the rest of this. I can't do it. But we just hold on to it, right? That blows my mind how I have a friend that has a car and it's just too expensive. He doesn't want to get rid of it because he already paid so much into it. But I'm like, bro, there's interest, and if you don't want it, you can't afford it, you should get rid of it. But the Clippers are like, no, we don't just take him. We'll take anything. We messed up. We don't want this contract. And I think that's interesting how that works in the dynamic of players. I know I'm not doing a social commentary on like players and assets and proper. I'm not doing that. That's not what I'm doing. So don't, just settle down. If you're going there, don't go there. Settle down. Anyway, I'm really excited to see where this is going, like, for the Pistons, because I'm not a Pistons fan, but I am a fan of I'm not a fan, but I like them. Like I like Stan Van Gundy. I like their toughness. I like their tenacity. I like the history of the Pistons. I like that. So I wish them the best. I hope that all works out. When it comes to this whole thing, LeBron actually had some interesting things to say about the trade. They asked him how he felt about it, and he said he spent his last 9 years there. He signed a multi-year deal there this summer, so that's unfortunate, but that's the business side of it. It's both sides. It works both sides, though. It's the business. And then he said, franchise teams have to do what's best for the franchise. When a player decides to leave, he's not loyal, he's a snake, he's not committed. It's just a narrative of how it goes on. So I'm definitely aware of that firsthand. We've got our own things to handle and get better at. So I've been focusing on just trying to win tonight. So I find it interesting what LeBron said, because like I've thought about this other times when if a team does trade a player, then it's always for the best of the team, right? Like no matter what, it's always for the best of the team. Even it's not ironic. The crazy thing is when players get traded, fans will still boo the player, like for being traded. It doesn't happen often, but it happens a lot. And I just find that so interesting that we're so quick. I'm not going to talk as a collective, but a lot of fans are so quick to attack players when they want to leave somewhere or don't want to be somewhere. They want to make a business decision. Like Kyrie Irving says, I don't want to play here anymore. I need to make a business decision for my life. And he's disloyal. He's a bad person, all this or whatnot. It's okay for him. It's not okay for him to say that, but it is okay for Danny Ainge to trade Isaiah Thomas. Right. And I don't have direct quotes, but from what I gather, it seemed like they're pretty close. It seemed like that team, that franchise with him went through a lot in that year. I mean, in that playoff run, in that year that he played when he was an MVP candidate. It seems like they went through a lot. Now, Danny Ainge trading IT for Kyrie Irving makes Danny Ainge a mastermind, right? He's a mastermind. He's brilliant. He's Phil Jackson. He's the illest. Like, he's not the Phil Jackson GM. He's Phil Jackson, the Zen master coach. He's all that, right? But Kyrie wanting to leave for business is shady, and he's a bad person. It's silly. It's ridiculous, right? And it gets me how, because when they signed Blake Griffin to this thing, like they basically had, I'm not going to say it was a press conference, but it was a press conference of how Blake Griffin's a new face, and I guess moving CP3 out, they thought they were going to rebuild around him. But no, after all that, they're like, you know what? Yeah, we're not gonna. Yeah, we're gonna be trading you. You're gonna have to go to Detroit. You're going to have to go to Detroit. And of course it's all relative. Like I know there's some people, I mean, there's like the school of thought that's like, whatever, he should be happy he got traded, but he's getting paid $171 million. Now, money's relative. So just because you make a lot of money, that doesn't mean that you don't have feelings, right? Like, you may have $171,000, but your problems are still your problems. Just because someone else lives under the freeway and they don't have $171,000 that you have, that doesn't mean that your problems are irrelevant. So I'm not going to say just because the guy has a bunch of money and gets sent to Detroit, it's okay. No, it's not. It's not. It's the ethics and moves and the way that it works within the business. I just think it's interesting that when players do the same things, they're we burn their jerseys, right? Like when players leave, we burn their jerseys, and then like wish the worst on them and destroy them on Twitter or whatnot. But then when players get traded, then the GMs and so on, they're geniuses. I also find it interesting that some of these players end up in situations they don't necessarily want to be in, and they end up being the scapegoat, right? So, for example, let's say when LeBron went to, that's too old. Let's say when KD went to the Warriors, right? And the Warriors didn't win the championship. He'd be a problem. Like, he'd be the scapegoat. Like, it'd be real life issues. No one would be very happy about the outcome of that. And that's understandable. Meanwhile, IT has been traded to the Cavaliers. They're not winning games, and he's the scapegoat. It's like, oh, IT's not working out. Oh, this is ridiculous. No. He got traded there though. Like, he wasn't someone that protested, hey, I want to go to the Cavs. I really need to go to the Cavs. I can't wait to go to the Cavs. No, he was fine where he was at, and then got sent somewhere while he was injured and has to learn how to play with new players. Like, what do you necessarily expect? I mean, and it's interesting because there's complaints about him being too ball dominant, but that's who he was when he was in Boston. And you guys had a ball dominant guy who was nice with the rock, but apparently he wanted to go. So it seems like all Boston did really was just upgrade. I mean, they got somebody who could score a little bit easier that was 2 inches taller. That's basically what happened. As far as the other players go that were involved in that trade, I don't really have anything to say about them. I don't, because I know I talked a lot about zero sum, but I feel like this trade is zero sum. Like, there's a winner and a loser, and I'm gonna go with the Cavs being the loser of that trade. Period. Like, no matter what. I mean, even if that pick ends up being, like, I don't know, like the illest college player in the history. I don't know. Like, maybe the Cavs use that pick to draft like LiAngelo Ball or something, and then LiAngelo Ball is like the next LeBron or something. Who knows? Then the Cavs definitely won the trade. But if that happens, then I will eat a truck. I will eat a whole truck. Like, the truck though. You bring me a Ford pickup truck and I will just eat it. Just the whole thing completely. It'll be done. 100%. This is where we're at with this right now. I feel like with this happening, this may definitely shake things up as far as the playoff hunt goes. I feel like I don't know if the Clippers are going to fall out of the playoffs, but you know what? Let's say they did, because I know people don't believe me, and I know people think it's funny, but I got a strong feeling. I mean, with Blake Griffin averaging like 25 and 10, and him leaving, I don't know how those points are going to get replaced. So if the Clippers start to sink a little bit, you know who might be able to sneak into those playoffs? You know who might sneak in? And you know, with Boogie Cousins being down, you know who might sneak in? We might start hearing about those Lakers again. We just might start hearing about it. We might. And the only reason, I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys, the only reason I even care is because if the Lakers make the playoffs, we get to hear from Lavar Ball again about how he was right about the Lakers making the playoffs. And I can't wait to hear about that. I can't wait for Lavar to get on a plane and fly to LA, just do an interview and say, I told you they'd make the playoffs because of Lonzo. I can't wait for that to happen. That's all I want from the NBA season. You know what? I'm putting all my cards on the table right now. I'm be 100% honest with you guys. That's the only reason that I ever wanted the Lakers to make the playoffs. I'm not a Laker fan. I can care less about the Lakers. I'm not one of those people that's like basketball's better when the Lakers are good. I don't even know what that means. People say that about football too. Like, the NFL's better when the Raiders are good. What are you talking about? How? Why? I don't even understand what that means. I don't get it. Is it because their fan base is like so full of like bandwagon fans? The only way you guys can get those fans to show up to games if they're good? Is that what this is about? I don't like it. I think it's silly. Anyway, I'm all for it, because if we can hear LaVar Ball say, I told y'all that they were going to make the playoffs because of Zoe. I told you guys, period. I told you guys from day one, if they drafted Zoe, they're going to make the playoffs. They made the playoffs. Whatever I say happens. I can't wait to hear him say that. Can't wait. Anyhow, that's my Laker confession. That's it. If for those of you guys that didn't like that, then sorry. That's just where we're at right now. I'm going to take a quick commercial break. When I get back, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more, just a little bit more about this trade. And I'm going to jump into some other stuff. Be right back. It's a surprise. I would tell you, but then it won't be a surprise. So, I mean, and everyone likes surprises, right? I mean, unless you're in a scary movie, because if you're in a scary movie, those surprises are usually negative. But I digress. Be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast with your favorite host, Ryan Holloway, presented on and by the GSMC Podcast Network to fulfill all of your podcasting needs. I was just going to finish wrapping up this whole Blake Griffin trade for you guys. This is the thing. Now, I don't know if anyone knows this part, but people should know this. I mean, I think we should. But the only reason I feel bad for Blake, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty sure that Blake Griffin is happy to be out of LA. And I'm going to tell you why. I know LA's warm and I get all that. He's played there for a while. He's got to move. He's like a big deal on commercials. I think he's a funny guy. He's a great personality. That whole Blake and Drake thing they did a while ago, it's great. Kia commercials, all that. And the thing is, they did this whole ceremony for him when they signed him to that new contract. They said we're happy Blake Griffin's going to be a Clipper for life. They did like basically a impromptu jersey ceremony in the arena, basically, and they raised his jersey to the rafters, like as though they were going to retire it. It's a big deal. Like his number is 32. Ironically, this episode is number 132. So shout out to Blake Griffin. But for them to do all that and then trade him, I think it's kind of tacky, right? And I feel like for them to have this core of players and all of them leave, like all of them. So you got CP3 takes a walk, Jamal Crawford plays for the Timberwolves now, JJ Redick, Blake Griffin's gone. You traded him away, and it's kind of like, if you can't keep any of these players, well, JJ Redick decided to go warm the bench at the Sixers. Well, he was coming off the bench anyway. Jamal Crawford decided to go to the Minnesota Timberwolves. You got these guys voluntarily leaving LA, leaving an area where they had $1 billion owner. He's the richest owner like in sports, period. I think he's worth like $40 billion, something like that. So people are walking away from money and walking away from LA. Like, they're not walking away from money and walking away from a bad place to live. It's not like, okay, we're going to offer you X amount to play in Alaska, but I don't want to play in Alaska. Or it's not like you're living in Miami, but they're trying to pay you a nickel. No, they're trying to pay you billions of dollars in LA and you're walking away from it. So I feel like it says something about the organization. So with that, I'm actually happy for Blake Griffin. He gets to go somewhere and start new and do something else and still collect his bread. Will he stay on the Pistons for a while? I don't know. I have no idea. Will he enjoy Eastern Conference success? Possibly, if they make the playoffs, which I personally think they will. I feel like they will make the playoffs. I would hope so. I want to give you guys a little heads up about your people. As you know, the Cavaliers have been struggling a lot, and we love Cavalier news. And I need to apologize about something that I made a statement about several days ago, I was a little wrong. Now, I was told that Kevin Love went home after the first quarter because he had the flu when he was sick or whatnot. And me, someone that was coming off of the zombie flu, I was empathetic towards the situation, because if when you're sick, you're sick. No one can tell you anything. So I was told, I read that he was confronted. They had a team meeting about it. And he was they were exposed and all this stuff. You're a fake. Turns out that wasn't his first time doing that. Leaving the game in the first quarter, then going home. I didn't know, I had no idea that wasn't his first time doing that. Now, I had his back. I don't necessarily know what the reasoning is for him going home all the time, during the game. But if that's something that does happen, then I guess I'm going to go ahead and say that it's okay. I'm not someone that's going to be a jerk about it and be I know all the facts. I'm just going to say if it's happened twice, maybe they should have confronted him. I'm just saying. Anyway, speaking of Kevin Love, he left in the first quarter of the Pistons game Tuesday night because he broke his hand. Ironically, he voluntarily leaves the first quarter during games, and this time he left because he broke a bone in his hand. The X-ray showed he has a fracture. He's on a 6 to 8 week timetable. Now, not sure what that's going to do for the All-Star game. I'm pretty sure they're going to replace him with someone else because because everyone that was stumped from All-Stars, we need them to be an All-Star. Apparently that's what I'm getting from you guys. How everybody that was snubbed, they have to play, and eventually it's going to get to a point where they have to have the whole NBA be All-Star. So I'm not sure who's replacing him quite yet. He's averaging 18.2 and 9.6 rebounds. Now, he gets a really bad rap, but he's averaging 18 buckets and 9 rebounds. It's actually 9.6, so that's almost 10. I want to say double-double, but I'm not going to sneak into that. He gets a bad rap, but those are big numbers. Now, I don't know where – I'm sorry. I know those aren't big numbers. Those are efficient numbers. 18 and 9, I don't know where they're going to replace that at. Now, I'm wondering if that's going to pressure them to make this DeAndre Jordan trade, which I'd be very happy to see. I'd love to see if the Cavs can get Dre Jordan. That'd be incredible. I'd love that. And I'm wondering if that's going to have an effect on the trade situation. I'm wondering if – I'm not sure what Kevin Love's contract is, but I know that DeAndre Jordan's contract, it's not sky high, but it's not Blake Griffin level, but it's pretty large. And I'm wondering if, since the Cavs no longer have that, if they'll be willing to go ahead and move Chandler Fry and move Crowder and move whoever. Just get those guys out of there just to get Dre Jordan in there. I'm wondering. We'll find out. We shall see. Other than that, I mean, the Cavs are just going to keep on rolling. Not rolling, but I mean, I guess going downhill, because that's what it's looking like. So, I mean, good luck to the Cavs. Hope that works out for them. We'll see. I do have something to talk to you guys about that I didn't even know was going on. I just found this out the other day. So just recently, well, I know that, should I take a break? I feel like I should take a break and then come back and tell you guys about this, because this is pretty good. This is pretty good. I don't want to. No. I'll tell you. Anyway, so a couple of days ago, Lavar Ball coached his first game and they won by 30 points, right? And don't ask me how he ended up coaching in Lithuania. I don't know how he finessed it. Actually, I do know how he finessed it. What ended up happening was that he was an assistant for one game, and they said, okay, hey, it's just a playful game. It's an exhibition, whatever. You can be an assistant. And then somebody finessed his way to actually coach the whole game. They won by 30 points. How, you may ask? Finesse. That's how. And basically, he was asked after the game how he felt about, he said, how he felt about the game. But stop there, and we're going to rewind a minute ago. Steve Kerr was asked how he felt about LeVar Ball's comments toward Luke Walton a while ago. And Steve Kerr said, basically, this guy talks a lot. He's a Kardashian of the NBA. He's somewhere laughing. We're all eating out of his hand. We should stop talking about him. Basically saying we shouldn't pay attention to him. Fast forward to right now. when LaVar Ball was asked about how he felt about coaching, he said, coaching is not hard. Anybody can be a coach. Look at Steve Kerr. He's the Milli Vanilli of coaching. Which I mean is you can go stand at the same spot like Luke Walton did and win 20-something games when you got the right horses running. Sometimes less coaching is the best coaching. But some of these guys like to act like they are really coaching someone to play. How do you coach KD, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson? You know how you can coach them? You don't. You turn your back on them, and they do as they do. As soon as they win the championship, everybody said, oh, Kerr's a great coach. The team was put together by Mark Jackson. And now Kerr jumped him and tried to take all the credit. That's why I'm calling him the Milli Vanilli of coaching. Wow. Now, first of all, before I like go into this statement and before I go into this statement and talk about how levels of it have some sense, like make some sense, a lot of this is completely wrong because Steve Kerr is like made it abundantly clear on the multiple occasions that Mark Jackson gets the credit for this team. And Steve Kerr, for one, I believe one of the championships, he didn't even go on the podium or didn't hold the trophy because he said, no, this is these guys. They did this. They earned this. Another time he had, they asked him about a play that Steph did when Steph Curry like dribbled the ball in the circle and just threw it up in the air. And he like jokingly was like, yeah, we run that play all the time. I coach that. So Steve Kerr has actually been, I want to say, the most like humble, winningest coach that I've probably ever seen. Honestly, he knows that he's been given like an incredible team. He's completely aware of that. Like I don't see how. So for anyone to like, I don't know if LaVar is like blatantly trolling or if he just doesn't know. It could be both. I'm not sure. But Steve Kerr doesn't jump up and take credit for any of that stuff. Like he doesn't. He shows an immense amount of gratitude for like the position that he's in and for the players he has. Now, when Steve Kerr was asked about this, it's great when people practice what they preach, right? Because some people will tell you to do something and then they're like, well, you should just do this in this situation because that makes the most sense because that's what I would do. That's what any smart person would do. And you see the same person in the situation and they don't do that. And you're like, you were just gassing. People do that all the time, right? Like, you should do this. Blah, blah, blah. I would never do that. This is a stupid situation. Then someone's in a situation and you're literally watching them like, so what happened to what you said the other day? Oh, no, that's different. Oh, okay, cool. I'll give you that example just to say this. Steve Kerr, when he heard about this, you guys know what he said? I'm going to tell you when I get back from this break.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast with your favorite host, Ryan Holloway, presented on and by the GSMC Podcast Network to fulfill all of your podcasting needs. Now, before I forget this real quick, like, oh my God, I have so much to talk to you guys about, and I don't really have a lot of time, but it's fine. I love you, and we're going to make it work. Before I get back to the Steve Kerr, Lavar Ball thing, I just saw this thing, right, and it says, like, it's a Barry Sanders commercial, and it's for rock. I'm not going to say what it's for. I'm not sure if I can do that on the air, but it's for a commercial, and he's holding like this thing. He's like promoting a product, and it says Barry Sanders, and under it says football legend. Like, I guess that's why it's so important to have a championship, right, in any league that you have, because I mean, I know who Barry Sanders is, but for anyone that doesn't, it's just like football legend. Well, how do you measure that? What's a legend? How do you measure football legend? But anyone else that has a ring under it, it says championship or one-time championship player, like whatever. I guess that's why that's so important. It's interesting. I never noticed that before. Never noticed it. Usually they only do that in like basketball though, really, because I mean, you know what? A resume is a resume. You put anything on there. If I was assistant coaching a team, like bringing them waters and sandwiches, I'm going to say that I was a championship level sandwich provider, period. So I just thought that was interesting that shows Barry Sanders and it says football legend as like for his description. It's interesting. I should have said like, I don't know, like 10-year leader in something. It's just interesting. It says legend. How do you measure that? It seems subjective. Anyway, so I was talking to you guys about how Lavar Ball called Steve Kerr the Milli Vanilli of coaching and said anyone can coach the team. And he jumped up and took all this credit, and that was Mark Jackson's team or whatever, right? Now, Steve Kerr has been someone in the past that said, like, you guys should stop. He's getting too much attention. You guys should stop giving him attention. All this stuff, blah, 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 whoop-de-wop. And I talked about, well, I feel like sometimes people give you advice and they don't follow it, you know, there's media outlets that talk about how irrelevant Lavar Ball is, and then they'll still go cover him. Like, okay. But Steve Kerr, when asked about what Lavar said about his coaching, Steve Kerr listened to the whole question like very respectfully. Very respectfully. He didn't cut the guy off. He let him talk because the whole question was like 30 seconds. Like, how do you feel about what Lavar said? Oh, sorry. How do you feel about what Lavar Ball said? Blah, 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 blah. Guy's talking. Steve Kerr's like nodding his head as though like he's going to give him like some like clap back answer. And Steve Kerr calmly says, I don't want to talk about it. Anyone have a basketball question? Any basketball questions? Then someone asked him a basketball question, which I thought was pretty cool, right? Because, I mean, that's what you need to do. You can't really just go back and forth because they baited him last time by asking him, how do you feel about what Lavar Ball said about Luke Walton? Then Steve Kerr went on like this long, it was a long soliloquy, just talked about how we give too much attention to things that aren't basketball. It was an interesting commentary, but I don't think he was falling for it this time. And I found that really interesting. I also found it interesting that Lavar Ball would say that you don't coach players, but he said players don't like need coaches. Less coaching is better, but he's been critical of Luke Walton and critical of every coach that has ever coached his sons. So is coaching important, or is coaching only important when like you just want to step in? Because that it's kind of contradictory. Even though he did talk about how when Steve Kerr was out, the Lakers won 20 straight games, which, I mean, yeah, of course. But I think at this level, when it comes to these players being this good and playing at this level, I believe it's more personality management and making sure that they're taking the game seriously, right? So, like, I feel like I think it's an interesting dynamic, right? So if you have a team that's mediocre and they're not very good, you probably have to coach them up, right? But if you have a team of players that are outstanding, stellar, celestial, they're outstanding, right? They probably get to a point in their mind where they don't need any help. They don't need to listen to anyone. You have to coach them down. You know what I mean? Like, that's why it's gotta be personality management, right? Because I believe Steve Kerr and Draymond Green, they get into these arguments, but they're fine, right? They've won 2 championships together, so they're making things work. But I think sometimes when you have that much talent, people get ahead of themselves. You got to coach them back down to be like, yo, I need you guys to calm down. Just last night, he said they played disgusting basketball. You need someone to tell you that when you're that good. Like, hey, this is unacceptable. I feel like that's what Phil Jackson was doing as well. Am I comparing Phil Jackson and Steve Kerr? Yes, I am. Comparing him, I am. Because they both won multiple championships. They both are associated with the Chicago Bulls, period. Now, I feel like Phil Jackson did that a lot with Kobe and Shaq. Like, yo, I need you guys to calm down. Calm down. Not coach them like, hey, I need you to play better. But just, hey, I need you to calm down because this is important. Because I feel like if you reach a certain level of talent, then you feel like you can skip certain things. You have to make sure that the minuscule things aren't missed. Versus if someone's not very good, I mean, they're going to do the minuscule, but you have to teach them to be great. People that are already great, they feel like they can skip the minuscule and just get directly to the great. It's like, no, I can't have you pulling up from half court with 21 seconds on the free throw line, Steph. 21 seconds on the shot clock in the beginning of the third quarter. We can't start the half like that. It's not okay. Can't do it. Can't do it. I know you can shoot, and the best shooter in the world, but you can't do that. Versus having to tell somebody like, hey man, we need you to shoot the ball. I need you to take those open shots. Right? Two different levels. So I think what Lavar Ball said was low-key disrespectful. But I mean, you know, that's what he does. He says things to people so he can stay relevant. And he does an awesome job at it. He does an awesome job because I found an article about this, and this whole article is about how Steve Kerr didn't want to reply to Lavar Ball, but it's an article about how people shouldn't pay attention to Lavar Ball, but it was like, I don't know, 1,000 words about that. It's interesting, right? Crazy how that works. With that, I want to tell you guys, so like this day in NBA history, a while ago, Dominique Wilkins scored 26,000 points, right, for the Spurs. Now, I feel like I'm a basketball connoisseur. I feel like I know stuff, but I had no idea. I had no clue that Dominique Wilkins ever played for the Spurs. Now check this out. This is how bad this is. I want to say that when I don't know something, if I was on a game show, I would have lost $1 million. If someone was like, true or false, did Dominique Wilkins ever play for the Spurs for $1 million? I would have said false because I didn't know he played for the Spurs, and that's embarrassing that I never do that. But this is all going to connect. Okay, so January 31st, 1994, Dominique Wilkins for the Atlanta Hawks scored 23,000 points, okay? He was the 11th player in NBA history to score 23,000 points. January 31st, 1997, Dominique Wilkins scored his 26,000th point on the San Antonio Spurs. I had no idea. I didn't know. I know Dominique Wilkins is a Hall of Famer, and I know he gets buckets, but I really did not know that he got buckets like that. I didn't know he got buckets on that level. So my hat goes off for Dominique Wilkins. What's going to happen tomorrow? How do I say this? This is yesterday we had a very important event, and like a year from now, I'm going to tell you guys this. Well, a year from yesterday, I'm going to say this time in NBA history 1 year ago, which would be the 30th, James Harden was the first player in NBA history to have a 60-point triple-double. Now, he had 60 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists. Do you understand the level of, how do you say this? Do you understand the level of responsibility that you're showing on the court to do that much? One of my friends told me, I said, James Harden burnt out in the playoffs last year because he was tired, and he's missed probably 4 games in the last 4 years. And one of my friends was like, why is he so tired? He doesn't play any defense. Dude, are you serious? Like, are you serious? I mean, now I get it. People play defense. I get it. Defense is important in the NBA. He's not LaMelo Ball cherry picking though. Like, he's not standing on one end of the court, not getting back, waiting for cherry picks. He's running back and forth in transition, and he's averaging 30 points a game. That's exhausting. Here's the thing. How about you right now go score 30? I want you to go score 30 every day by yourself, and then let me know if you're tired after 82 days. Let me know. He scored 60 points, had 11 rebounds and 10 assists. That I don't really know what the analytics numbers behind those as far as like a usage rating goes, but I feel like if you're rebounding, this is just why it's never happened. Basically, I don't have to go into like the levels. If you're not impressed by this, then I don't think that you understand what numbers mean, because it's a 50-point, 60-point triple-double. And what that means is that he's all over the court. He's still finding people. If he has 10 assists, what that means that he probably passed the ball. He probably passed the ball 25 times. Probably passed the ball 25 times. 5 layups got smoked. The other 10 people scored. And he's got 11 rebounds. How are you rebounding the ball and scoring 60? He's pulling the ball off the rim and just jamming back on the court. He's unstoppable. James Harden's unstoppable. I don't even understand how him, Kevin Durant, and Westbrook were all on one team at the same time. Doesn't even make any sense. Jeez. Anyway, did you know what? I'm really happy with today's show. I really am. And I'm hoping that when you guys hear this, you're like, you know what? I'm really happy with today's show. And I'm very happy that Ryan was able to bless my ears with some tremendous basketball news. Now, I haven't done this in a while because I wanted to kind of take a break from it because it felt like it was getting a little old in my opinion. But I want to go ahead and give you guys the game of the night. You ready? Hopefully you are. The game of the night is going to be Philly versus Brooklyn. Philly -7. I feel like they're going to smash Brooklyn by a solid 10 points. Just in case you needed a little bit more background on that. You guys handle that? All right, cool. That's where we're at with it. So, as usual, I greatly appreciate you tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network with your favorite host, Ryan Holloway. Watch out for this fog if you are out there. It can be very dangerous. Live long, prosper. Watch out for potholes.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.